Hey guys, it's Walden Light from Walden Light Baseball on Instagram and the founder of Build Baseball. I've been wanting to post more YouTube videos, and now I have the time to do that because I had my appendix removed the other day, and I'm not allowed to play for 2 weeks, which is a bummer with the season just starting up. But I'm going to be posting some more content. I wanted to start with a main core mindset series because I believe that mindset is the foundation of everything that you do on the field and also just the foundation of what you do in life, really. And so I was going to have all the mental game videos I post for Build Baseball to be under the Win From Within series, technically. Like, it would be under the playlist Win From Within. But the first mini-series that we will do is Building a Foundation. And the first installment of this, we are going to be talking about establishing values. And so, if you checked out BuildBaseball.com, you have seen that the values for Build Baseball are confident, centered, and consistent, also known as 3C. Those are my personal values, and I wanted to preach about them on Build Baseball, the baseball platform which I own. And if you've seen my Instagram, that's in my bio. And I've talked about that before on my Instagram. But, excuse me. Today we're going to be talking about establishing values. I'm really just going to go through my story of how I got these values. And in the process, talk about the purpose of values and what they've done for me and just how you can create your own values. So it started about 2 or 3 years ago. I started playing to a level that I was not very pleased with myself with. I wanted to play better. I was working really hard off the field, but I saw none of that carry over. And if you're a player like that where you work really hard and you don't see the results that you want, most likely it's what's going on up here. It's interfering with your ability to do that. So what I want to do, excuse me, I talked to my brother about it, and he walked me through this visualization that he did with one of his mental coaches, Nan Elzinga, who I will talk about in a minute. So he went through the visualization with me. He told me, think about the best game you've ever played. Think about all the intricacies and details of that day, what the other team was wearing, what the field was, what the weather was like, what was the score, how well did you play, how well did your team do, things like that. And then he wanted me to say one word that described that day, and that would be my value. And at the time, I was reading the book Play Big by Ken Revisa and Dr. Tom Hansen. So the word big resonated with me at that time. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. I used that for a little bit, did not work. I didn't really see a carryover still in terms of the mental side. I still struggle with the mental side. I did have some more successful games than I did before. I was still unsatisfied. I was playing at a higher level after that, but I wanted to improve it even more, and I knew that there was more that I was doing because I have had way more successful seasons before that, and I want to know what I was doing differently then. So later on, I talked to the actual mental coach that my brother talked to, Nan Elzinga, like I mentioned. I'll leave her Instagram right here. You could contact her about setting up your own values. She's helped me a lot. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have these for Build Baseball or for my personal improvement or anything like that. So confident, centered, and consistent. I actually, at first, when I worked with her, we talked about the word confident. I thought about the games I was successful in, and we came to that word. I started using confident, but I did reach a higher level, but she told me that I could always raise my values once I played a better game, and that I could establish new values based on how well I improved, or just if I played at a higher level. So, excuse me, got a little bit of a cough right now. So, I used the same visualization that she walked me through. After I had a successful season working just off confident. Then I started being a little unsuccessful during my summer season, and after a travel tournament we had, I decided that I didn't do very well at the tournament, so I decided I'm going to look at all the games I've been successful in the past. I'm going to and I'm also going to look at the person that I want to be, think that through. And so what I started off with was writing down all the negatives to get those out of the way. I wrote down everything I wanted to change about myself. And I would say, so I would just say all these things that I want to change about myself. I don't really remember the negative phrases right now. I only remember the positive ones, really, which is a good thing. So then I wrote these positive phrasings of what I could do, like positive actions I could take to make those changes. Excuse me. And then I broke down all those positive actions, those positive traits that I could have, and I broke those down into 3 words, and that came out of confident, centered, and consistent. And I know them as 3C now. And this really helped me because the first game that I played committing to these values, I think it was actually the first game right after that, right after I decided to make these. I was very successful. It was one of the best games I played in a really long time up to that point. So I knew that investing in them would help me get there. Throughout my fall season, every game that I invested in, these values in, I was successful. So I knew that they worked, and that's for sure. All the games that I didn't invest in them, I was unsuccessful. And although it doesn't give me a 100% chance, it gave me my best shot it gave my closest to 100% of being successful. So it wasn't a guarantee, but it was a guarantee that I'd be more successful than if I did not. And so not only were these values based around the past and reflecting on what I've done right, it was based on what I want to be in the future, and also I had that assurance that it works for me. So that's really good. It helped me a lot. So I'm glad that I was able to establish those then. I now have a basis for what actually makes me successful on the field, and now I have all these values all the time. Every single morning I have this paper hung up on my wall with tacks, and I write confident, centered, and consistent on it. It's just the same paper. It says confident, centered, and consistent, and below it it says like all these different little terms or other words that could be synonyms, or just go into more deep explanation for these words. So it's kind of like my own personal definitions for the words, so that when I think of these words, I don't think of the dictionary definition. I think about my definition, and that just gives more meaning to me. So I was thinking about making a separate video about what these values mean to me, but I feel like it would be more fitting to actually talk about my personal definitions of these words real quick. So confident, I have it written up on this piece of paper, that I review every morning, like I said. It just keeps me on track for the day. Start off every day knowing what I need to be mentally to be successful and work towards what I want to work towards. So before I get into those, actually, I like to just address the fact that, for me at least, when I have a problem mentally, just going through something in a way that I would like to go through it differently, I know that I'm just not reaching my potential in any of these words. If I'm if I'm like timid or scared, then I'm not confident enough. If I'm confident but I'm not being considerate of other people, I'm not centered. But if I'm being confident and centered, if I'm like being assertive, but I'm also being kind to others, but I'm not working hard, then I'm not being consistent. So it's just a balance between all these that really just not only make you successful for the day, but also make you successful for tomorrow, which is also important. Just investing in your future. So I want to address that real quick. Confident to me means belief. So just belief in oneself, trust and conviction. A victor mentality, which is the opposite of victim mentality, which is where you feel like people are always after you, like every little word people say is supposed to be an offense to you, a personal offense to you or anything, or a defamation of your character. But the victim mentality is the opposite of that. It's just having intrinsic security, which is the next word. A victor mentality, intrinsic security, just having belief in yourself and trusting yourself. Intrinsic security, risk-taking, just going and doing something with your life that you've always wanted to do, to make memories, pretty much. Risk-taking, crediting, so just acknowledging your hard work. Just you, which is then a mental idea, like a mental concept I came up with, which is where just act as if you're the only one in the room, and that you just do what you want to do regardless of others, and just really, that kind of helps me a lot when I think of that, and that's just a really good word that defines confidence for me. Just you, intensity, and intensity / controlled anger. They could kind of, I kind of define intensity as controlled anger, so like a definition within a definition there. So when you're confident, you are able to work at a high level because you do not care what other people think. So intensity, control, anger, and then toughness, which is the last word. If you are confident, then you know that you are going to be able to withstand adversity, so you will be tough. Moving on to the next word, centered. Excuse me. Centered means true to values, so just staying true to these values. True to values, balance, like overall in life, but just a balance between two main things. Two main balances I try to keep: a balance between giving and competing, which is really just a balance between being kind to the right people, like being kind to your family members, your teammates, and being respectful of them, but also competing and knowing who to compete with, whether that be just the other team, obviously, or someone in the classroom, or someone who's trying to take something away from you. You know who to compete with. And then a balance between rationality and emotionality, which is huge for me. It was a huge realization for me. Really, just rationality is just the knowledge, information-based part of your brain. The left brain, really, although it's not technically that's just what we perceived it today to be psychologically. And then the right brain, which is the emotionality part, but just a balance between those two, like knowing when to be emotional and to push yourself to be a certain way, just using feelings such as determination, ambition, knowing when to use those, but also knowing when to be rational to a point where it's like, okay, I need to adjust what I'm doing right now. If I'm being too sad, I need to be rational and start acting more positive and just change my behavior. Or if I'm acting overly positive to a point where I'm not actually getting anything done, it's interfering with what I'm doing, then I know to be rational and just keep myself centered. That's why it's the middle word. I'll actually get to the order of these words in a minute. So balancing giving and competing, balancing rationality, emotionality, gratitude, so grateful for what you have, obviously. Priorities, knowing what is important to you and going about your life based on those priorities. Control, just keeping control of yourself, the rationality part, which I will get into a little more. Control, inside out, changing your mindset to change your environment, so changing your perception of your environment to change the environment, although you are not directly changing it, you're changing how you perceive it. So inside out, calm, just staying relaxed, using your breath, things like that. Some stuff that I've talked about with coaches in the past. I've writing content, and just saw in certain content that's really helped me. Inside out, calm, treat everyone with kindness and respect. There's this quote by Muhammad Ali. He said, this is paraphrasing, but I do not respect someone who treats a waiter poorly but treats me in a fair way, because if I was at the bottom, he'd be treating me the same as the waiter. So that's really just like, when I read that quote, I was like, I don't want to be the guy who is disrespectful to one person but respectful to another just because of their status, So I added that because I want to be someone who's respectful to everyone regardless of that, so I earn the trust of everybody, so I can build those relationships that really matter. Treat everyone with respect. Leave people better than when you found them. So when every encounter that you have with someone else, you want to leave a positive impact on them. Humble. So just knowing that what you've done is never enough. You can never quit or stop, which I will actually address in another episode of this about what not to do. That'll be something I address later. The no list is what I call it. but just being humble. And then result, I like to put result under centered. This idea came from the book Relentless by Tim S. Grover, which is a really good book that I read. I like to put it under centered because if you base everything you do around the result or where you want to be later in life, then you will be working towards that, and eventually you will reach what you always wanted to if you base everything off the result, pretty much. So I like that idea. Excuse me. Consistent. Moving into the last word, consistent. Consistent means every single day. So always doing something for what you love, regardless of the circumstance. So although my appendix hurts, not my appendix hurts, my appendix is gone completely, the fact I'm not going to let that stop me from learning about the game, thinking about the game, helping my teammates, giving them soft toss or something like that, just trying to help the team out in a way, even though I can't play right now, I'm still going to be working towards that future in a way the best that I can. So consistent means every single day. Positive. We all know how positivity can help. Just being consistently positive. Every single day, positive. No rewards. The process is the reward. If you reward yourself for good behavior, then you're not actually going to establish that sustainable habitual action that you would want to have. Because if you expect a reward every time you do something, then you're not going to enjoy the process, and that's just not sustainable. Like, if you ate ice cream at the end of the day after you ate healthy the entire day to reward yourself for eating healthy, is that really sustainable? Because 4 out of the 5 meals you eat in a day are going to be healthy, but it's not sustainable because you hate 4 out of 5 meals of your entire life, pretty much. So that's not sustainable. So that's why I don't believe in rewarding. I believe in having a process that is rewarding on its own, just being positive. So, no punishments is the next one. Everything builds or leads a successful life. So punishments does not add to that. Everything is supposed to build towards that end result, like we talked about in Centered. Just really punishing yourself, it adds value to the action you just committed. And that's why when parents discipline their children for doing something that they don't believe is correct, the kids still end up doing it again, because it adds value to what they've done. That puts an emphasis on that. So that's why, and the brain doesn't respond positively to negative stimuli. So that's why I added in no punishments under consistent. So consistent, no punishments. Everything builds and leads successful life. Like I said, function over feelings. So just to focus on what you need to do to be successful, despite what you may be feeling inside. People have feelings. That's how it's gonna be. But if you just focus on what needs to get done instead of focusing on what changes day to day, which is your feelings or your thoughts or emotions, then you will get more done. You'll be more successful because you're not listening to the things that fluctuate. You're focusing on things based off discipline, based off your goals, based on what you want to do later in your life. And that idea's really helped me a lot. Functional feelings focus on the process, so just to focus on what you need to do to get to the result. Focus on what is controllable. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, you can't change your environment unless you focus on what you can do to change that environment. So if you change your perception, you can change your environment. Focus on what's controllable. Successful behavior, so just doing what sets you up for success no matter what. Rationality, so just knowing what needs to get done and just doing it no matter what. Outside in, so kind of the same as inside out. But to change your perception of your environment, you need to change your behavior. So some coaches like to call it fake it till you make it. That's a saying or a phrase that I've heard before. So you want to make your behavior more positive to be more positive. And since you are now more positive on the inside because of what you've done on the outside, your environment will change, if that makes sense. So outside in and extraordinary, that's a word that I love. That word resonates with me a lot. I just like to think about being consistently extraordinary. That's a word that I kind of think, well, just like if I wasn't to say consistent, I would say extraordinary. That word is I just try to be consistently extraordinary. I just think of successful powerful people every time I hear that word. And just thinking about the person I want to be, I think extraordinary when I imagine that. That's just a word that I really like. If that's what you want to choose, you want to choose words like that when you're establishing your values. So, like I said, extraordinary, and then for the love of the game. I'm consistently doing all these things because I love the game. I love what I want to have a future in it. So that's why I'm investing in these things. That's why that's a definition or like a sub-definition to consistent. So now I want to talk about the order, about why I set it up in this way. So if you have multiple words, you can think about it in a way that makes sense to you. I had confident on top because that is the most important for me. It's the original value that I had when I first talked to Nan. So I have it on top because it's the most important to me. It's the thing I need to work on the most in just confidence. I'm really good at staying rational. I'm really good at being kind to people, but when it comes to being assertive, I need to do more of that. And I want to be at a point where I'm more on this side than I am on this side, so that's why I keep that at the top. Centered means true. I almost just went into my review again. Centered, like I keep that in the middle because, well, for one, it's the center, but it's just it keeps you within these. Yeah, that's what I kind of think of. So just centered keeps you within these values, and then consistent, I keep it at the bottom because it's the basis. It allows for all this to happen. If you're confident and centered one day, it doesn't matter. But if you have that consistency to do it every day, then you're going to be successful. Because what you do one day doesn't matter. What you do like a week does not matter. But if you do it for years, that matters. So it's just a long-term thing. And to make it simple, I break it down into 3C. Confident, centered, consistent, 3 C's. I write that on my wrist. And that's just so if I was doing something and I felt like I wasn't meeting the criteria is just a way I like to think about it. I look down at my wrist. I'll talk about this in a later episode of Building a Foundation or Installment, whatever. It's not a TV show yet. Maybe one day. But it would be like I would do this. It's my release. I talked about this with Nam, but just doing a physical action to release you from negative energy to get you onto a positive track. And I'll talk about that in later episodes, a later installment, like I said, about building a foundation. So those are my values. That's how I arrived at my values. I put a lot of thought into making them so they have meaning to me. I know they work, so that makes me feel really good that I have those. I know that if I commit to those, then I'm going to be successful in terms of the mental game. All the stuff that I worked on outside of the field, but also like in terms of practice and stuff like that, outside of the game, like outside of playing a game against a team in competition. Everything I've done outside of competition I know will apply and carry over because of what I'm doing mentally, just as long as I follow these. So that was my story about establishing my values. I hope that helped. I hope that makes you, I hope that inspires you to make your own values. I'd like to say that I know that I am not a role model necessarily for success in baseball yet. I know in the future I will be. I'm not playing in college or professionally, obviously, but I have done a lot of research on this. I have had personal experience. I've talked to a lot of credible, reliable people, and I've consumed a lot of content that is made by reliable people. And so I hope that you like the content that I'm putting out here. And just, I like to do this because it's kind of like taking you guys through the process with me, and we could all learn stuff together. So that's kind of what I liked. That's kind of why I want to start doing more YouTube videos. So those are my values. I hope you establish your own values. Just determine what makes you successful. Determine what you want to change about yourself and turn those into positives about what you can do to change. So base it on not just the past, but also the future. And just make it in a way that it's easy to remember, but also has meaning. So if you were to just say these 3 words, or whatever your words are, they have a deeper meaning than what the dictionary definition says. not just the denotation, but the connotation of what those are. So, I hope you tune into the next installment of this Building a Foundation series, in which we talk about establishing goals. I don't necessarily have there's no prioritization in terms of episodes. I just started off with some bigger stuff like values and goals, not necessarily one's more important than the other. They're all very important. I'm just going through these in a certain way. Just not necessarily what's more important, just going through them, really. So I hope you join me on the next installment of Building a Foundation for the Mental Game on the Win From Within series on how to establish goals. So thank you for tuning in. Check you guys next time.